Uh, we'll be looking into how to make use of the masking and shape layers. We'll also look into animating, um, if possible, if there's still time, we'll do some animated texts, to cover up for the next class, which is Thursday. So we'll have more time for practical. And then we'll also look into making use of strokes. Someone suggested that we do street lights today. And I don't know who suggested that, but I don't think the person is here. Um, so we'll look into all that. First, I want to ask who was able to, you know, work on what we looked at last week. Is there anybody that wants to share his screen or screen? Yes, to good. Engineer Seriki, are you there?
Hello, I'm with you, but I can't because I'm driving.
Oh, okay, I see. Any meat for us?
Well, I hope the meat
No
remains.
meat. Everything is in your boots. You're carrying them home. No problem.
Have you? But I'm with you.
Okay. Okay. So you won't be able to share your screen. It's all right.
Yes.
Mr. Emmanuel.
Well, I currently went to get food. So probably if I get back and there's no one around, I can stay my screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as it stands, I would just have to carry on. So I think the first thing would be to maybe we should just try creating the street lights thing. More like an offshoot or continuation of the class from last week. I'll just show you the whole process, how I go about these things again, so that by the time you see it over and over again, you get used to how these things work. So the idea is you want to create, um, you know, the street lights, and all that, maybe within your animation. How do you start thinking? You need to start getting your assets, right? So you think, do I want a vector asset? Do I just want a bitmap asset? So by now, I
Both.
believe you should know the difference between bitmap and vector, right? Vector assets are raw assets like the Adobe Illustrator. They come with the extension files of like Adobe Illustrator, .cdr as CorelDRAW. Well, I mean, I don't really use CorelDRAW, so I wouldn't recommend that. To just work with the .eps encapsulated PostScript, work with Adobe Illustrator. Those are the two files that you can comfortably work with. For vectors, EPS is more universal. You can open in any other vector editing software, Adobe Illustrator as well. So the advantage of having a vector file is that these files are still in their raw mathematical state. You can scale them up to any size. You can scale them up to any size, up to 12,000 pixels, 8K, 12K resolution. You only print on Billboard. Your designs have to be done inside of a vector software so that you can scale it up based on size and then print later. But if you have your bitmap image, bitmap is already rasterized, right? You can't scale it up without having to damage the appearance. The appearance will start to pixelate because it has been converted into a photo form, into a picture form. So when you scale it up, it now has dots of ink. Okay, dots of different ink colors making up that image, right? You can open bitmap images with any, you can transfer bitmap images into your phone. That's what you see as your regular pictures that you snap on your phone. That's what you see as your graphic design flyers that you send to you on WhatsApp and all that. Those are all rasterized images. You can't really scale their size up. If you take an image sent to you on WhatsApp, you want to print it for billboard, you just all you will see will just be jargons because you scale a rasterized image up. But if you want, that's why most times when any creative person wants to work for a company and requires him making use of the company's logo, they will request for a vector format of that logo. So it gives them that freedom to scale the logo without making it appear pixelated or blurry, right? It appears sharp at any size. So that's the advantage of vector versus bitmap, right? So you think of that. If you're going to, or maybe zoom into the street lights and zoom out, I would advise you go for vector so that you can have the largest size. But if it's just an icon that you put maybe along your video just to hang in there, very tiny, then you can just go for bitmap without, stressing yourself to download a vector file, begin to, unzip and begin to open inside of a vector software, start to try to export and all that. It takes more time. So bitmap is fast, vector takes some time, right? To edit, scale it up to the size you want, and then export into a bitmap image finally, which is most likely would be PNG formats. PNG formats carries a transparent background. So that's what you would always need for your After Effects animations. So with that said, let me share my screen. I don't think the option to share my screen is okay. Screen one. So here's my screen, and based on what I said, I can decide to go freepik.com, right? When I go to freepik.com, I know I want to download vectors from here. So I could just say street light. The advantage of working with vectors, like I mentioned, another advantage is that you could have multiple options, multiple images can be found, right? This one is an image. This is actually an image. I think you can edit with AI as well. You have the option here to select vectors. I want only vectors and I want free vectors. So you select vectors, you want free to show you all vector images. Street lights, okay, it's giving me this. I think we have to go for traffic lights. So let's say traffic. And then you see the different options it will give you. So this is a vector. This is a vector image. This one is also a vector image. So the different images you see here. So you just make your choice and say, okay, I think I like this. So let's say we're going with this one. Let me just download this as a vector. So if you decide to want to go for bitmap, you could say just traffic lights, then always add PNG image. Always add PNG at the end. You see this will come like that, and then you look for the one that has the transparent background. Then you could set this one to large, click on tools, go to size and say large, so that you get the largest size possible. Okay. So I'm trying to look at this. Okay, this looks like a PNG with transparent background to me. Now if you see here, we have 1400 by 2800. So this is a large image. I could just download this directly, say save image as, and I say uh, traffic light bitmap. Okay, so traffic light bitmap, I download that and I already have that to work with. So with this one downloaded, I could just go into my After Effects and import it directly. You see how easy it is to work with this kind of, just download the PNG file and start working with it directly, straight up, with no, I could download this one. So I think is also transparent background. I can see my normal gray and white checkered transparency, indicator there. So I can download this and work with it. But if I'm working with this one, I have to wait for it to download. I can't use it directly, right? I can't use it directly like that. I have to extract first. Where is that? Then it comes in encapsulated PostScript. That's EPS. I can just double click and open with Adobe Illustrator. I already, programmed it in a way that when I double click on it, on any EPS file, it opens with my Adobe Illustrator. So I'll just wait for that to open. Now you can see that this one takes time. Download, extract, open with Adobe Illustrator, edit one or two things, then export, or you save it, how you want to work with it. Unlike the other way I showed you, where you could just quickly download what you want and just go straight into animation. It just depends on the use case. It depends on how you want to make use of it. Like this one already has some designs here that lights the red, yellow, and green up. So just watch me how I edit this. I only need one of this one, so I don't really need the three of them. Okay, so this file we downloaded, the arrangement is very, very bad. It's going to be stressful. The arrangement makes this thing stressful. So let me just see what we have here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this, right? I'm going to take these things out. Take dark covering out. Make dark covering, take it out. And that's the next. Okay, this one. There's a covering here. Anyways, I'm going to delete this too. To delete every other thing here. And I can work with this. Say file, save as. So we have our file ready to use. Let me create a new composition here. Call it street lights. 1920 by 1080, say, okay. Now, by the way, if you want to start a new project, you just need to go to File and say New Project. So I'm still working with the previous project that has this comp, and this map. So this is the bitmap, PNG format, import, and that comes in. Just drag it into my composition and scale it down. S, scale this down. Okay. All right, I was supposed to drag this into a different comp. So let me just cut this out. To cut, Control X, cut it out. Go to my street light composition, double click, then paste that in. Okay. Now, if you notice something with these street lights, the red is already very bright, the yellow and the green, So, we don't want to, we know what we're trying to achieve here. We want to actually show red to actually be red when it's time to stop, or yellow when it's ready, green when it's go. Okay, so this image might not really work because of just the red being very bright. So in that case, we're going to forfeit this one, right? You might as well go ahead and look for a better image that works, which might be even this one. So that's actually to actually work with bitmap, import, and then do what you want to do. So let's import the other file, traffic lights, import as composition, retain layer size, import. So it comes in like that. Turn this one off, bring this one in. Okay. And scale it up. All right. So we're going to create 3 shapes, or even one shape, right, that we can duplicate into 3. How do you create shapes? Ayodele, please, could you mute your mic? Okay, so how do you create shapes, right? If you check on these tools panel, that's just right below the menu bar rather. You have the home button, you have the selection tool, the hand tool, zoom tool, rotation tool, blah, blah, blah. Rectangle tool, this one. So we have 3 tools in one kind of section here. They're divided into different sections. Okay. Now we have the rectangle tool here. We have the pen tool, this one for drawing different shapes. Sorry, for drawing, like just like the pen tool we have in any other design software. Like I think InDesign should have it too. People who do graphics, even in Adobe Illustrator, we came across a tool like this. So we also have it in After Effects. Some call it the Bezier tool. In Adobe software, it's called the pen tool. It's just basically for drawing shapes, right? When you hit on the bottom right of that tool, there's an arrow there. When you hit on it, you see more options for that tool, okay? Or you just click and hold, it just pops out. You click and hold, pops out. So for the shape tool, you have the rectangle tool, you have the rounded edges, the rectangle tool, you have the ellipse tool, polygon tool, star tool. You'll most likely be making use of this ellipse tool and the rectangle tool at least 70 to 80% of the time, or even 90% of the time, right? We have the text tool here for creating texts. Okay. So you're making use of these tools. For this one, we want to use the ellipse tool. So like I said, you click and hold, then you see other options. So I have that tool selected already. You can see it in blue. So I could just draw shape, okay? Just click and drag. Now, when I draw a shape layer is created. A shape layer is created on the timeline, all right? Now, for every shape I create, I can decide to create multiple shapes in one shape layer. Now, all the shapes I create would appear in the content area, contents. So for now, I have ellipse 1. Can decide to maybe create a rectangle, still having the same. So I have to have the layer, shape layer selected before I could create another shape. You can see this one is rectangle 1, this one is ellipse 1. Okay, two different shapes inside one shape layer. I could create another shape like a star. Now I have polygon, polystar 1, rectangle 1, ellipse 1. If I draw another rectangle, okay, it says rectangle 2. Okay, After Effects is smart to understand these different shapes. There are situations that will require you drawing these multiple shapes in one shape layer, but until that time, shows up, it's not advisable to do that. So how do you delete these shapes when they're already created? All you just need to do is you hit your delete button on your keyboard, select the shape, hit delete, select the shape, hit delete. This ellipse, I'll delete it as well. So nothing is in the contents. Okay, nothing is there. I'll draw another ellipse. Now remember your shift and your control, they are your best friends. To draw a circle, just click and drag. To draw a perfect circle, you hold down shift. Okay, you hold down shift. It draws your perfect circle. Okay, if you hold down control, you draw a circle from the center you choose. So let's say I want to draw a circle from the center of this green traffic light. I put my mouse right there. I hold down my shift and control. Okay, when I drag, I hold down my shift and control. Do you see that? I hold down my shift, perfect circle, I hold down my control. Perfect circle from the center. Make sure you click and drag first before you hold down your shift and control. Okay, so I scale it up to the size I want. Let's say this size. And I want to color this shape to bright green. The shape is already selected. Immediately you draw the shape, it's automatically selected. So what you do is you go to the tools bar. Just behind the tools bar, you see some attributes or properties. So I could change the color by hitting on the fill. And then we have the color palettes here. Choose whatever brightness you want, whatever color you want. Okay. And say, okay. Now, you can also change the stroke color. But if you don't want the stroke, you could hit 0 here and say enter. Right? You can see how when I increase the pixel of the stroke, you can see how I'm dragging it left and right. It increases and goes down. Okay. But the best way, if you don't want any stroke, you hold down your Alt on your keyboard. When you hold down your Alt key on your keyboard, you click on the stroke color. When you click on it, it changes to gradient. When you click on it, changes to radial gradient. Click on it again, it cancels out. So you see like a red line crossing it. Means no stroke fill. That's the best way to go about it. So anytime you hold your Alt and you click, color appears. I can decide to change this color to red. Or I could say, okay, I don't want any stroke. I just click, hold my Alt on my keyboard while clicking. It just keeps changing until I see the red line crossing it out. So it means no stroke. If I don't want the fill as well, I can just hold my Alt key and keep clicking as well to change to linear. So this is what they call linear gradient from left to right. You click again, it changes to radial gradient. Okay, like a circle. Click again, it cancels the fill out, so there's no fill. Click again, the color comes back. Holding down your Alt key. So that's it. Now that we have this shape, I'll go back to my selection tool, which is shortcut V. But I'll just click on it on my tools panel here. Now I can move this shape around wherever I want. Okay. Now I want to try a few things here. So just follow me closely. I want to be able to switch on this green and make it appear as though this green traffic lights came on. So the trick is to make it bright, is it not? So what do I do? This thing is not giving me what I really want. So I'm going to try a few different things here. So at this junction, I'm going to show you what we call blending mode. Blending mode. Please make sure that you're taking note of this thing. You could watch the video if you want. It's what we call blending mode. Now, these blending mode options, they're available on the timeline, and you see them here. When I hover my mouse around there, you see what the write-up there is saying blending mode, the label, blending mode. So when you click on any layer, let's say I have this, my shape layer selected, click on it, you see different blending modes here. Now you can experiment with all these blending modes to see which one gives you what you really want. But the ones that comes in handy, okay, I'll explain how they work. The first one is multiply. Multiply helps to sort of darken or mixes with your background in a way. So if your background is dark, let's see how this one works when we use multiply. Do you see how it comes out? it blends that green color with the background, make it a bit darker. I like using this when I'm trying to create a background that doesn't disturb the pictures on my foreground, what I'm trying to show on my foreground. So I use multiply. Okay. The next one you might find handy is the add. So you use add for something that is very bright, something that is shiny, like the sun, you know, street light, traffic light, and all that. So add will boost it and make it sharp. Okay. Or you could also try screen. Screen is, this gives different effects, right? So what we always do is we try out different blending modes and check which one works. Okay, overlay gives a different effect. You see the effect the overlay gave here. Okay. So looking at this, it might look like the overlay works better. The add was too bright. So let's say if I scale it down. Okay. So me scaling down now, you see what's happening?
Okay.
There's something called anchor point. Is someone trying to talk? Okay. I'm trying to scale down. You see what's happening? It's not scaling down to the center. Why? Because my anchor point is not at the center. Now, when you notice something like this, I mean, if you look around this image, I have this particular shape selected now, right? But if you look up here, you see something like a circle, like a target, a circle that has four, edges like that at the top here. So that's my anchor point or center of pivot point. To move the pivot point, the shortcut is to hit your Y on your keyboard, or you go to your toolbar here and select pan behind, okay? Just beside the camera tool. Pan behind, anchor point 2. Pan behind, anchor point 2. Select that. So with that tool, you can move your anchor point. Can you see how I'm moving this anchor point? See, it's following me. I'm just clicking and dragging it. I'm just dragging it. So I drag it to the center where I want it to be. Another trick is to hold down your control. It will snap to the middle. You see like a square will form around it. I'm moving my mouse now. The thing is not following my mouse because it has snapped to the middle. If I move my mouse, so the control just makes it snap to edges, okay? Makes it snap. But if I release the control, it just follows my mouse anywhere I drag it to. Hold down control, move your mouse to the center. When it's at the center, you will know. And you release your mouse, okay? And I have my anchor point at the center of my shape. So bear this in mind, whenever you create a new shape using the shape tool here, whether rectangle, whether ellipse, whether polygon tool, the center, the anchor point would not be at the center of your shape. You have to always use the hand behind tool to bring your anchor points to the middle of your shape. It happens all the time, so bear that in mind. So now when I scale up and scale down, you see it's going exactly how I want it to go. So let me keep this here. Okay, let's do it like this. So I'm still making use of the add. Let me try something else. Let me reduce the opacity and see how that works. If I reduce the opacity. Okay. So the opacity is giving me kind of effect. Let me try the overlay again. Increase the opacity. You see, they give me different effects. It just depends on which one I like the most, right? Depends on which one I like the most. But let me make use of, let me see, soft lights. That doesn't work. Vivid light. That doesn't work too well. So most probably we'll be making use of the add or the overlay, right? Difference gives you, you could try all this out yourself and see what effects they give you, okay? You try them out yourself and see what effects they give you. This one is color, auto save. And this one is color, this one is saturation, gives you different effects. The hue gives you different effects. Separate, subtract, difference. They all have different weird effects. I hardly use these ones, hardly, except I just want to create some very weird kind of effects. You will make use of overlay, soft light, add lighting screen, and multiply. That's the ones you make use of most of the time. They just, give you what you really want. So making use of the add, I'll reduce the opacity to, like, let's say, I'll work between 60 and 0. 60. So I have my opacity set to 60. When I want the traffic light to go off, I turn it to 0. When I want it to come on, take it back to 60. Okay, or 50. Whichever one. And the next thing I want to do is, we see around this traffic light, the way the light comes off here, I mean, I don't like that. I want to make it look like a ray. Now, how do I achieve this? Remember, there's what we call the transition effect. I showed you guys that last week. We looked at the grid wipe. I'm sure most of you must have practiced and made use of some of these other transitions. We use, so there's the Venetian blinds. You can try it and see how it works. The controls are basically similar. We're going to make use of let's see how the radial scale wipe was, because I think this would lead us into a deeper place, slightly deeper, right? So let's try this radial scale wipe. I did completion. Okay. So that's not the effect I'm looking for. Find the center, which is this. The center here. Okay. Take that down. So you notice what I did here? There's what we call center. Center is where the effect starts from. So let me just move this out a bit. You see a tiny control here. Right? This control, when I drag it around, I'm actually dragging where the effect, starts from. Okay? So I want it to start from the middle. So I'll bring it to the middle here. Anytime this thing maybe disappears and you don't know what it is, all you just need to do is just, move your numbers left or right. You see it come out. This one is for the up and down. You see the controls on the left area here. I'm just moving the numbers. All right. Just move the numbers and it comes out. Another way to find it or to control it is to click on this tiny button here. Okay, this one. When I click on it, a cross appears on my screen. So wherever I click on my screen now, that would be the new center. So if I click here, it comes there. The new center appears there. So it's more like a fast way. So I click, bring to the center here, and then click, it comes there, right? And different ways to control this. Can control with the numbers, can control by clicking and clicking on my screen, can control by dragging this on its own. There's a tiny control there you can drag around. So it's very intuitive, however, you want to work. Now, the challenge with this radial wipe is that it doesn't have feathering. So there's what we call feathering. Feathering is just going to blow out the edges. It's just going to blow out the edges. This doesn't have that. Just comes out sharp like that. So if you remember what feathering is, let me just turn off this effect and then use transition effects here called linear wipe. For linear wipe, so linear wipe is just from left to right or right to left. Okay, so this is what we call linear wipe. Now, the edge is sharp, right? But if I turn up the feathering, it starts to blow it out, right? So this radial scale wipe doesn't have that feathering. So how do we achieve the feathering? How do we achieve the feathering? There are two ways we can do that, right? We can do that inside of After Effects here, or we can do that outside of After Effects. We can do that inside of After Effects, or we can do that outside of After Effects, which is in within Adobe Illustrator. Okay. But first, let me show you how you can achieve it here. To get that feathering effect, you would need to generate a gradient ramp. It's called gradient ramp. So how did I get there? You go to Effect, you go to Generate, okay, Effect, Generate, and then Gradient Ramp. Let me just delete this two effects. Select on the linear wipe and the radial wipe, just select and delete. So now I have two colors here, black and white. Okay. I might need to just put this thing to normal first. Put my blending mode to normal, and then raise this to 100% so I can see what I'm doing. The opacity, I raise it to 100% to see what I'm working with. All right, so I have a center. So when you generate a gradient ramp, there are two centers to work with. So there's a center that controls the black color. There's a center that controls the white color. So this one I'm dragging at the bottom here controls the white color. So when I bring it closer to the circle, you can see it turns white. If I take it further away, it starts to turn dark. Okay. The other one controls, the one on top controls for the black. When I bring it down, you start to see the circle get darker. Right? For the ramp shape, You need to change this from linear to radial. When you change it to radial, you have this effect where the black starts from the middle and then goes out to where the white is. So this is what you get. All right. When you have this now, you can then change the color. So let's say I'll change this start color from black, change it to green. Okay, bright green. And then the end color, I change it to black. Now, there's a reason why I want it to be black, because when I apply any of my blending mode, the black would fade out and I'll have a blurry edge. It would appear like light, you know, popping out. So maybe I'll leave this like this. And then when you achieve this, you can then go back to your blend mode and say overlay. That doesn't work. Screen is what works. All right. If you use add, okay, add would work too. So you see what's happening there? Turn on the traffic lights and turn it off. So that's how that one works. So I used add for these. If I take off this blending mode, remember that we use gradient ramp. If you go back to the video, you'll see how we did it. Effects, generate, gradient ramp. Then you control the centers, okay? Bring the centers to the right positions and then give them the right colors by changing any of these colors to what you want. And then you get this shape. So whenever you have this shape, when you use add or when you use screen, anything black would fade away, to just fade out. Only the color area would pop. The rest would fade off. So that's how you get this effect. So the good thing about it is I can now duplicate this into 3, like Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D. I have 2 duplicates. I drag one above to the red, drag the other one to yellow. Okay. Something interesting happened here. So maybe I just need to drag the centers to the new position. Okay. This one, I need to drag the centers. Okay. So I change this color to red. For this one, I change the green color to yellow. So I have this. Okay. So there you have it. To animate this now, we just make use of opacity. So whenever I want anyone to come on, we just, so let me just do this. See, opacity, turn everything to 0. If I want the red to come on, I just create a new keyframe. And on the next keyframe, I just take it to 100. So when I play that, it just pops up. Okay. Try this 2 keyframes back. If I want this to go off, what I do is create keyframe on the next keyframe, just copy frame 0, keyframe 0, Control C, Control V to, you know. So anytime I want this to come on or come off, I could just copy any of these keyframes and repaste in front. I can copy these transparency keyframes, Control C, select them, and then Control C. I could paste on this other layer. Since it's transparency, it will still work. Okay, you see that? Yeah, red, yellow. And then for green, Control V as well. Green comes on. So you have 1, 2, 3. Okay. I have this now. I can go back to maybe whatever I'm working on. Maybe map edited. Maybe I have something going on right here. I want to bring in the traffic lights. Now I could just look for my traffic lights comp, which is the street lights. Okay. Street lights. Could drag it in. Okay. And then maybe I want it to be right here. Scale it down into 2 bits. Okay. I mean, I can decide to make it start from wherever I want. Drag this further a bit. So that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. Okay, so let me just save that. Now, the second way to do it might be the easiest, right? Is to just come to your Adobe Illustrator, right? And create 3 different layers, or even 1 layer and just duplicate, but just create 3 first, 3 layers. So each layer carry the light, come to your shape tool, select your ellipse, hold your shift as usual, create your perfect circle, and then drag to the center. Now, automatically, you see this already has gradient. I mean, I didn't put the gradient, but it just comes up with the gradient, right? But if you want to do gradients or flat colors, we have 3 options here. We have color, we have gradient, we have no color. So just click on the gradient. The gradient control appears here. So from here, you can add whatever color you want. So here I want it to be black. Just double click. Keep black. Here I want it green. Sometimes this thing can be very funny. See the palette. So, I mean, just create a gradient like that. above this. You also have transform modes here or blending modes. How to access the blending mode is to click on the transparency panel here. Then you see the different blending modes. Like we saw in After Effects, we have the darken, we have the multiply, we have the screen. So if you use the screen, it gives you almost similar effects, but the difference is that there is no feathering. So what we can do is, go back to the gradient and then reduce the opacity for the black. Select this black, reduce the opacity to 0. We have transparency here. And then this is like that. Okay. Depends on where you want it to get to. Okay, so this is how the first layer comes in. Okay, for Adobe Illustrator. Now you can then duplicate this by simply holding your Alt key and drag up. It creates another copy. You drag it into the next layer. Okay, drag it up. Hold your Alt key, drag up. Another way to duplicate is to, let me delete this, is to just drag this down into a new layer. Okay, you see the plus sign, just creates it. So again, you drag it down to where you see new layer. You see a plus sign will appear there at the bottom there, just beside the delete button. You release, another one would come up. So you just delete this two. Drag into the dustbin. Okay. So the easiest way to duplicate is just to hold your Alt and drag. You can actually copy and paste as well if you want. So you just select this and say Ctrl C, copy, select the layer 4, Ctrl V, paste. Okay. Different ways to do the same thing. So now all I do is just change the colors, go to gradients. Gradient control. The green, I want this green to be yellow. And I want the third one to be red. So when you're done like that, you just save. Control S when you save, and you re-import this into After Effects, and then you can make use of it instead of After Effects. So those are the two ways you can create the light effects for traffic lights. Okay. And that's also part of how you can also create shapes. So I showed you how to create shapes instead of After Effects. You just make use of your shape tool. Right. Okay, so I just used one stone to kill two birds. I explained how you can create light. Just to answer just to respond to the request of someone who requested for that last week, and then how to also create shapes. Now, the next thing we want to do is how to create masking. That's what we call masking. Masking is just a form of hiding things, using a shape layer to hide some things. You could mask anything you want to mask and review them later, right? So with that, I would want to create a new composition to show you how that works. New composition, let's call this masking. I'm going to import a video. So I have this Lagos drone footage downloaded. By the way, this link will be shared with you. You can download this footage because we're going to make use of this footage for our motion tracking class. So the footage is imported already. And you can see it on my projects panel there. I'll just drag and drop into my new composition. So you see what happened. I dragged this video into my new composition and it's not filling up my 1920 by 1080. This immediately alerts me to the fact that this video is not a full HD video. It's just HD, high definition, not full HD. Okay, so immediately I do this, immediately you drag and drop into a composition. I know this composition. If I go to my composition settings here, I would see 1920 by 1080, which is full HD. Okay, full HD, FHD. But dragging this video into that same comp, that's full HD, it's not occupying the whole screen. I can see some black space around it. This immediately alerts me that this is not a full HD video. So I quickly run back to the info of the video, and then I see 1280 by 720 pixel. What this means is that this video is actually a HD video. HD, not full HD. So HD is 720p, full HD is 1080p. That's 1080. While this one is 720, so it's lesser, right? So be careful when you're downloading this video. Make sure it's full HD, and it will occupy your whole screen. But I don't want to go downloading this video again. So what I'll just do is to just scale the size to, I'll add I think 150. We'll take it to full HD. 150 scaling. We'll cover the whole screen. Okay. So what you see right now, the video is this green line following the timer. It's trying to render the video. It's trying to render it. So it takes some time. In some places it will pause and then render it and then keep playing very slowly and jerky. But when it's done rendering, when the green line is done, then the video will play faster. Okay. So that's what's happening. It's playing smoother now. All right. So we're going to use this video to learn a couple of things and then do some motion tracking. Okay. Use this video to learn a couple of things and do some motion tracking. Let me just cut this video a bit. There's a beginning part that's not very nice. Okay, so let me show you how masking works. How does masking work? You can create masking with any of these tools, the pen tool or the ellipse tool. For example, if I want to mask this UBA building out, I mean, I have no reason to mask it out, except, you know, maybe you want to replace this building with another building, blah, blah, blah. That's a very advanced course, right? But I'm just showing you like the beginning stage of that. You wouldn't have to mask this building out, okay? You can mask it and then use motion tracking to follow the building if you want to put something else there. But that's advanced, like I said. But just to show you how masking works, you might have reasons to want to, mask anything out or cover, especially maybe on images, right? On images, flat images that don't move. You can do masking on those ones and then you go free. Well, if you do masking on videos and you don't know how to motion track that masking to keep it in place, then there will be a challenge. So it's very simple. I just select maybe the pen tool, for example, come to this building, start to draw around the building. I click, and just creating different points around the building. Okay. You start to see the color following. I mean, if I don't see the color, I could just come here, like I said before, hold your Alt on your keyboard, and then you click the color to cancel and go off. And I can keep drawing. Okay, so very good. You see these 2 points disconnect. So what do? Select the last point. Okay. Select the last point where you stopped, and when you continue, it would follow. So just to be very quick and just do that, just draw on there. Okay. Very good. So sometimes it's good to make these mistakes so that you can see when these mistakes are made. Something just happened. So I actually thought I was drawing my shape over my video, not knowing that I was creating a different shape layer. So this is a different shape layer. You see that? So it's supposed to be that when I finish drawing the shape around the video, that particular building would be only what would remain, right? So, but now I did that by creating a shape layer, which is what you see. So that's the shape. Okay, I just created a shape layer over the UBA building. If I do, let's say I do this alpha. Oh, sorry, that's not transparency. So let's see. Okay. Now, what happened here is I did what we call the alpha channel, alpha matte channel, right? That's one way to mask, but that's not what I wanted to show you. But this is one way to mask actually. You create a shape and then you use alpha channel for that. But we're going to go back to what we're supposed to do. So I'm going to recreate this from the scratch. So I select this particular, make sure that your video footage is selected or your image footage is selected, and then you draw around the image. Okay, so now I click, you can see that the mask forms. There's a layer under the footage, that's video footage called masks, right? Masks. So that shows that we're on track. And just do a quick masking auto save. So when you do that, everything disappears, only the UBA building remains. Then you can drop down the mask control. You have different options here. You have the inverted. Okay, you can invert this so that every other thing disappears. Sorry, every other thing appears and then the building is only what disappears. It's similar to when I did the alpha with a different layer. So these are two ways you can mask. You can draw your mask over your footage, or you can draw, a different image, or you can draw a different shape and then use that shape to create an alpha channel. Okay. Now, this also works when you use text. It also works when you animate text. And then maybe you want the text to appear, and inside of the text, you want some maybe nice, maybe Lagos footage or some motion graphics playing inside of the text. So you use the text as a mask over a video. Then you see that video playing inside that text while you animate the text. Okay. Now, I don't want to go so much into motion graphics like that. I just want to stay on track with, the niche that we all need, right? So I don't go too far into like motion design and all that. So now when I play this video, to hit play on this video, okay, you see the UBA building is maxed out. Now when this video plays, you see the UBA building that was maxed out is already coming out of the side. Now this is where we do things like motion tracking to keep tracking this building and keep it invincible. So we're going to treat motion tracking on the next class, right? Treat motion tracking on the next class. So we've seen how masking works. Another thing I want to quickly show you is how to also use the shape layer to create lines. All right, so some videos you would see where I need to delete this layer. How this mask. I need to delete this mask. Okay, so some videos you see where maybe a video like this would play and then it will pause, and then you see like a line will show on this road and then show you like a direction or something like that. So I'm going to show you right now how to also create something like that using the shape layer. Okay, so it's very simple. Select your pen tool, the normal pen tool that we use for masking. Make sure you don't have anything selected. So for example, you see that the Lagos drone footage is selected right now. If I click on an empty space, it's unselected. If I click selected, empty space, unselected, make sure nothing is selected so that when you start drawing your lines, you would not start creating a mask. So if I have this selected and I start drawing any line, the next thing you will see is that a mask has been created. So you don't want that happening. Make sure nothing is selected so that when you click, instead of creating a mask, a new shape layer would form, a different layer would form. So just click, trace the road. Let me get to this point. Just draw a curve following this road. So I'm trying to trace a bridge. Remember that I said, if you don't want this color to stop, just hold your Alt and click the fill color at the top here. Click hold your Alt, click, hold your Alt, click again, and it cancels out. Come back to where I stopped. Keep drawing. Get to this point. Okay, so this is a curved road, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the Bezier handles for this line I just drew. So how do you do that? With the pen tool still selected, I mean, you can use your selection tool, right? But if you have your pen tool still selected, you can still work with it. But just make sure you're very careful observing how your mouse changes. So when you get your mouse to the point you want, it changes shape. It means that you can drag that point, get to this handle, can drag these handles, okay? So I'm going to give this stroke a color by clicking on the stroke at the top there. Let me give it a color like, let's say red. Okay, I'm going to reduce the size. Maybe it, so that you can see what's happening on screen. Okay. So you could do something like that. Adjust the smoothness of the curve, select this. By the way, I move my screen easily by holding my space bar. When I hold my space bar down, a hand will come on screen. Then I can click and drag my screen around. So it's just my space bar. Okay. So it stops there. And control that. Now you can do this over images, over videos. But for video, because video is a motion picture, you need motion tracking to actually compensate. Or you just pause the video and then show the line you want to show. When you're done showing whatever you want to show, you can start the video again. So I will show you how to pause the video. But if you're working with maybe a map, right? If we have time, we'll still look into that. Some of those is it the DWG files that were exported? We would experiment with them and see how to also work with them. So let's say we have this line drawn, okay? And then we want this line to animate. We want maybe this line to like move like a stroke, move like this, and then go this way. We simply just do what we call trim path. Trim path, so it's an effect. Now, how do you do that? This is the shape layer here. Now, instead of the shape layer, we have drop downs for contents. Instead of the contents, we have shape 1. Okay. Now, for the content, just by the right side of it, we have what we call properties, additional properties that you can add additional properties for animation. So we have the zigzag, wiggle, transform, and all that. We have a lot of them here. For now, we're going to use trim path, this one. Okay. Trim paths. When you select that, trim paths option adds inside of the content. So it becomes, an animation control that adds in. So all these things are just extra animation controls. Okay, they're just extra animation controls. So this trim path, when you drop it down, you see start, you see end, you see offset. Okay. So let me quickly show you how that would work. So when I move the 0% of the start and I move it up, you see what's happening to the red line on screen. So it's reducing, okay, from the back. But if I how to save. But if I do this, the end, okay, see what's happening? It's moving as if it's reducing and increasing. Okay. So that's what's happening. Remember all these things, you can always animate them. Now, before we animate this, let me show you how to pause the video. So we want the video to pause at this stage, and then we want to animate to show a direction to turn. You know, I mean, you can reduce the length of this stroke. You can, you know, draw any size of any stroke, as many strokes as you want. So for this video, at this stage, we want to pause the video. So what do we do? There are different ways you can do it. There are different ways you can do this. Different ways. Okay, let me show you the fastest way to do it. I want this video to stop right here. Okay, this is already, and okay, let me just do this. I want this video to stop right here until I'm done showing this direction, then it will start playing again. So at this point where I have my time indicator pin, I'll duplicate this video, but I'll duplicate it in a different way. I can do Control D. It will duplicate the video for me into 2. But that's not what I want. So I'll undo that. So I'm going to do Control Shift D. It's a different way to duplicate. The video cuts into half, right, from that point, and then creates a new layer above it. So this is the video now. It cuts into half. You can see that the video is cut. Now, at the point where the video cuts, that is where it will pause. Now I can duplicate this into 2, move this one further to wherever I want it to start again. Okay, I can drag it anywhere. And then for this one that holds the pause, you can see it's still playing. But how do I pause it and keep it stagnant? Right click on it, go to time, and then you see freeze frame. Freeze frame. And you click on the freeze frame. An animation property will appear, time remap, showing a square keyframe. That square keyframe means freeze keyframe. Now, it will hold that frame all through the video. You can see I'm moving my time now and nothing is playing. You can see nothing is playing on screen. So it's holding that particular frame. So the video keeps playing from beginning. And then pauses. Okay. And when I want it to start playing again, maybe I want this to start playing from around here. Okay, I can reduce this. And then when it gets there, it continues. Okay, so let's see this again. Freeze frame. After some seconds, starts playing again. Okay. So when it gets to this point, that's when I want to animate my stroke. So I'm going to start from 0. I'm going to switch on my timer, animate that to 100. Okay, I always like to use my F9 ease in, ease out. So you see what's happening. This the video plays, gets to this point where the video stops, and that's where my stroke animation starts from. And then you see that playing on screen. Okay, then start again. This video is playing and then stops. The red line shows. Okay, let me fit that on screen. Just for more visibility sake, let me just scale this up. So the video starts, plays, the video pauses here, a line shows, okay, and then the video continues. Now, before the video continues, I can decide to animate this out by using a different way. I could just cut this, okay, by the best way is to, there are two ways you can do this, right? You can do Ctrl+Shift+D, duplicate, so it cuts that, and then you delete this one above, okay, and it goes out. It goes out, and then the video can continue. You can always drag this to stretch it however you want. Again, so all the ones that you deleted will still come back. If it's a video or an image, to just keep stretching. So you can stretch any of this, any footage at all. Right. So, that's how to make use of trim path. Okay. So, I mean, this is just like showing you the basics, how this works. If we're going to use a Google map, say, for example, let's just use this particular one. So I could simply copy this layer, Ctrl+C, bring it here, and paste, Ctrl+V. Okay. U to check my keyframes, where they are. Okay. This is what happens. So I just want to make use of that same animation. That's why I'm bringing it here. Just my keyframes. Okay, so how do I adjust this to suit maybe the same animation, but I want it to suit, you know, this graphics here? Very simple, you know. Select the pen tool. When you get to an anchor point, the shape will change. Okay, the shape will change. So I bring it, can drag down here, can drag to this corner. Okay. Here I can bring this one to this point. Okay, let me see around here. Adjust the anchor. Sorry, the bezier handle. Adjust the handle. Adjust these handles, you know, to just match what I'm working with. move this one here. Okay. So that spot. Just this bit. Okay, so let's say I wanted to continue and go into this Mushin Market Road. I could just select this. When I have this one selected, I can keep drawing. Okay, to follow. By the way, if you click and drag, to create handles, but if you just click to create sharp edges, okay? If you just click it to create sharp edges, but if you click and drag to create handles that you can control, okay? So when the person gets to this point, autosave gets to this point, can then turn left and all that. So you definitely spend some time editing these lines to give you, you know, the curve that you need, right? So let's say this is what we want. And then we want to animate. So it will go like that. Okay. Now what we did was just copy that same layer that had the animation. Okay. Remember, it's called trim path. Trim path. How did we get to trim path again? It's just to go to the content drop down, contents. You see the add. You see the add button just beside contents. Add, you click on it, you see trim paths. So trim paths will create this animation option. Okay, trim paths 1. Then you animate the ends. You can animate the starts as well. So you could do something like this guy just plays out, gets to the end, and then you want it to just fade out in a very stylish way. You could use the start. And then the starts would, you push it to 100, it will fade from the back, from behind. Okay. I like to use my ease in, ease out always. So you have something like this, it plays out, and then it fades out. Okay, plays out. Okay. So you have the traffic lights there. You have the line showing the direction. Okay. So I mean, you make this appear whenever you want it to appear by controlling your keyframes. Controlling your keyframes. Is your keyframes that determines where this starts and where it ends. Okay. Anything on your timeline will be it will be determined by your keyframes, where you start your keyframes, where you end your keyframes. Okay. So at the end of this whole class, we'll work on a very short project together where we would make use of some, everything we've learned, we'll put it together into a very short 5 or 10 seconds project. Okay. Everything we've learned so far. So if you're not practicing, you're not doing yourself any favor. Okay, so please, I'll really, really suggest that you practice these things, watch these videos again, practice them. Let me ask if there's any question at this point, because our time is already almost up. I'll use this opportunity to answer questions. And the next class would animate some text. We couldn't animate text today because I want to answer some questions that you might have. We'll move the animating text to the next class. And then we'll also look at also how to convert some of those DWG files. I haven't worked with DWG files before, but it's possible we'll convert them to vectors, or we'll find a way to import them into After Effects and make use of them, and then use some of these things we've looked at, animate text, and using some Google locator icon to pinpoint maybe some buildings, to pinpoint certain areas on the map, and then everything we learned at the end of the whole class, we'll be able to do just a very little short projects, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Everybody will have to do that, and then I think would have achieved something by then. So please, if there's any question, kindly ask. Yeah, hello, Tayo, are you there?
I doubt if Tayo is on his system at the moment, but maybe we'll try with him on WhatsApp. Concerning
Yeah,
questions, I
I'm even
believe
trying to call him. He's not even picking. I don't know. But
I saw
I
a couple
mean,
of times earlier, but probably they didn't want to interrupt the flow because it was getting quite interesting. So it's getting quite interesting with the traffic lights and the lines. So probably you've answered the question. Okay? But a couple of hands
oh,
came up while you were attending
okay.
to some of.
Yes, I'm still trying to look through the chat if anybody dropped any question. Nobody dropped anyone. Please, if you want to ask any questions, kindly ask now. This class is still being recorded so that we can have this also within the recording for reference purposes, right? If there is no question, I might just go ahead and maybe show you how to animate text as well. Anybody, any question? Okay, I'll just assume no questions. Um, okay, so this is what we have at the moment. Right. In the next 5 minutes, show you how to animate text. The first thing is to select your text tool, horizontal type tool, that's what they call it, but text tool. Make
Are
sure
you
nothing
sharing
is
your screen?
selected here. Oh, Okay,
Think
I
I'm
almost forgot that. Yes, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Um, I'm gonna hide this. Okay, so this is what we have at the moment. Like I said, sometimes, I mean, as simple as this might look, you would appreciate the amount of work that goes into it. But to be honest, when you get used to it, it's very seamless, very easy. It's just because it's your first time, it might look like, you know, it might look like a lot, but it's not really a lot, right? It's something you could just do within a snap of the finger when you get used to it, right? So it's just to know where certain controls are. Just go there, click, add, edit what you want to edit, and then you're done. Okay, so that's it. So to create a text, first, just use the text tool. So the text tool is just beside the pen tool. We've used the ellipse tool. We've used the ellipse tool like creating shapes and all that. We've used the pen tool, okay, to create the line and all that, and even masking. You use pen tool for masking, and for the text tool, that's for typing text. So just click, make sure you don't have anything selected. Okay. For these ones, when you see a white color over any layer, it means that layer is selected. So make sure you click on an empty space within the timeline. Okay. If there's no space within your timeline, what you just need to do is use the selection tool. Okay. Selection tool, then click on an empty space within your composition arena or area. So let's say around here, I click on an empty space. I deselect everything. Okay. I'm no more selecting anything. So if I have this layer selected, if I click empty space, so anywhere empty space works. Anywhere empty space for composition area or composition panel or your timeline, any empty space works. Okay. Back to my text tool or type tool. I just click. Anywhere I click, you just see this red cursor will appear for typing. Okay. I can type in anything I want. FFF, whatever. Delete that. So just normal typing. And when I do that, a layer appears here. A text layer appears. It's always in red. Always in red. That's the default color by After Effects. You can change it if you want. So I can always click here and change to dark green, right? And look back to red. You can always come, maybe your text is already in a non-typing mode. Just come and click, select. So let's just say Lagos. Lagos, capital letters. Okay. I can scale my Lagos up by, let me just go to my selection tool here. I can scale in two ways, but they work differently. I can scale the text itself, which is, going to my characters panel just on the right-hand side here. My characters panel, I could give it the bold appearance. Take that away. I could give it italic appearance. Okay. Or I could let me just scale this up. Right. You see that I can scale the number up. Now this one scales the text itself. This scales the text itself. Okay. It's got advantages and disadvantages. Now, another way to scale your text is to actually scale it by layer. So I could just go to my drop down here, go to my transform. I will see the scale. That scale as well. So now I'm not scaling the text. I'm scaling the layer. So it's different. It's different. Now, what's the difference? Let me just quickly show you. So let's say I type Lagos and I say space bar and I say Lagos Eco. Now, when I scale the text, do you see what's happening to Lagos and Eco? It looks like there's a separation between two of them. If I increase, the Eco enters into Lagos. Okay, now what's happening is that there is a setting here. There's a setting which has to do with the leading. So the leading is how far the Eco is how far it is from Lagos. So it's called leading. Okay. This other one is called kerning. That's just design terms, kerning and leading. It also works in Microsoft Word, right? So when I scale with the text size, it's got this effect. But when I scale with the layer scale, it scales equally. You see that? So they work differently, right? This one is not, this layer scale is not affected by these settings here for the leading. But if I'm scaling with the text scale here, it affects it. So these are two different ways to scale your text. You cannot animate this text scale, right? But you can animate the normal layer scale here. Okay. Now there is an advanced aspect of this that might enable you to add some extra control targeting, you know, this text size here, and when you increase it, it affects certain things. That's quite very, very advanced. So we're not going there. Okay, so this is Lagos Eco size by scaling. Move it to the center. How do I get to the center of the screen? Perfect center of the screen. Remember our align panel. Align. So I hit align to horizontally or horizontal, alignment comes to the middle. Remember this our control here, title safe area. We see that um, lines around. So Lagos and Eco are the center. You can change the font type here. Make sure the layer is selected. Come to font type. Okay, select whatever font type you want. And to change, you just go for Montserrat, which is what we're making use of. Montserrat. I hope After Effects is not trying to crash. After Effects is not working again. Some brain touch. Okay. Let me just close that. Okay. Change this to extra bold. Okay, so we have Lagos Echo right at the center. We've created our first text. How do you animate this? There are different ways to animate this, but the fastest way is to make use of animation presets. So our animation presets panel is not open. Okay. Okay, I think it's here, but it was hidden. But let's say you don't find it open anywhere. Just go to your Windows, right? Check for the presets panel. So it's called Effects and Presets, okay? I click on it, opens like that. You look for text. Oh, sorry. You look for animation presets. Sorry, animation preset as the first drop down. Then you look for text, animation presets, text. Then you can make use of any of this. Or most times you want to use animate in, okay? Or you might want to use 3D texts. Okay, 3D text animate in. Now, when you start using 3D text, After Effects will convert this Lagos text into a 3D layer. Okay, to convert it to the 3D layer. Well, let's start with the basics. So let's use animate in. Let's use the first one, center spiral. Let's see how you just drag it from there. Okay, drag it and drop on the text. Make sure you have it selected. Don't drop anywhere else. Make sure it's on the text. When you drop it there, 2 keyframes will appear. Now, how do you see your 2 keyframes? You hit U on your keyboard, U, to show you all the keyframes. All the keyframes. So this is what you have. It just spirals in like a spiral, right? Okay, that's too much. If it's, it takes about how many seconds before it finishes, it's just because of the keyframes. So if you just drag these keyframes closer to each other, like that, you could bring this one closer. Okay. So it's faster, F9. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it's more nice. So that's one text animation. Okay, so they worked with rotation and opacity. And I think they also worked with some, they also, so they added range selector rotation. They added fade in opacity. Okay, so those were added extra animation, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, how did they add that? They added it from the text drop down here, animate. Now you can add extra animation tools here, like your anchor point animation, position, scale, rotation, opacity, and all that. All right, you can animate colors, you can animate the tracking, and all that. Or work with the basic ones, which is the anchor points, position, scale, and all that. So they already added spiral here. So if I don't want this animation, I don't like it, right? I could just select this spiral, delete, select fade in, delete, okay? So I would have my text without any animation there. So there's no animation anymore, it's gone. I deleted the 2 main areas where you have the keyframe. So let's try a different, let's see if we say drop in by character. Let's try drop in by character. Drop this on the text. Okay, So hit U on your keyboard. How many keyframes? Just the animator one they added was position. Okay. So this is just position. It drops in like that. Okay. Drops in like that. You could adjust the keyframes, drag this closer so it's faster. All right. I always like to switch on my ease in, ease out. My F9 works for me all the time. Makes the animation very smooth. So there are different options here. Okay. Different options. I can delete this animator one. I don't want that. Okay. Let's try the typewriter. I mean, a lot of you like this one. Okay, it works for a lot of animation options. So our keyframe starts here and types out Lagos equal. So I want it to type out faster. We'll bring it closer. Select F9, ease in, ease out. Okay, that's typing. Like the type effects. Type effects is always nice. It works for any situation. Okay, something very corporate, something very nice, Lagos equal, right? So that's how to animate your text. There are other advanced ways to animate your text, but like I said, we're going to just use because if we start going deep, we'll reach Pacific Ocean. So, but let's stay put on track, right? So when you know all these basics, right, going into the deep waters will not be an option. At least you must know how to even sail a canoe first before you start thinking of using a boat and ship and all that. Yes, so this is it for now. Subsequently, you can decide to even add extra animation. You could create your own personal animation yourself. So how do you do that? Let's say this Lagos, there's no animation there. So I could just go to text here, animate. I want to animate the, say, position. Okay, animate so one position appears. I want to animate, maybe I can add more properties here. Or if I say animate another position, it will create animator 2. So there'll be 2 different animations. That gives a different effect. But let's say under animator 1, you can add more properties because we already have position selected. We could add position and rotation. Okay, it comes in there. We can add another one, maybe scale. Okay. Now, for everyone you move, right? So this position, right? I could say add keyframe here. Oh, hold on. Let's do it like this. Let me reset this. Say I add keyframes here. This position. And this up. Okay, scale. Oh, let me scale it down. Okay, rotation. Now, The next thing is you want to use the range selector. Okay, range selector. So all these position, scale, and rotation have been selected, and something interesting has been added there. You can use range selector. So the range selector just does, like, you can use offsets. Okay, can offset, and then play whatever looks nice for you, right? You could do start to finish. Okay, or you could use end. All right, so how do you do that? Create your keyframe, and then drag this to 100. So bring that in. Right. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay. Now you can decide to add opacity as well. Let's say I add opacity here. Opacity, and I take this down to like 0. Okay. So this is what you get. Nine. Okay. I mean, I hope you just have fun with these things. After Effects is like a toy. Just play with it, get used to it. And till tomorrow, any creative working with After Effects would have to still test a few things to see which one works best. Visually, the whole idea is, as time goes on, your visual, how will I put it? Your visual will just keep upgrading. You just know what works for what you're creating, and then you just plug it in. You see, you can't teach creativity, you can only teach the tool. Creativity just, it's something that's a mental thing, right? So I think we can call it a day here. At this junction, if anybody still has any question, I can still answer a few questions like in the next 10 minutes, thereabout. If no question, we'll just call it a day. All right. We've been able to do a lot today. So kindly watch these videos and practice, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian. That was quite an informative session. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Checking the chat. There are no questions in the chat. Okay.
I think I would just like to add that as we go along, if people have challenges, they can also drop their challenges or comments in the WhatsApp group so that
Yeah,
the
yeah, and
um,
then yeah, and then we can
the-
bring them up during the class.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's someone's comments in the chat room. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Circus, I think that's for you, Christian. He's reminding you that you said you will send the video clip.
Yes, that video. I will share with Tayo. I think I already shared the link with you, Tayo. So I will just record. I would I'll reshare that link to the video.
Okay.
I'll
All
reshare
right.
that link to the video. Yeah.
No problem. I'll follow up with you on that. No problem.
Yes.
All
So
right.
I think the next class would work with a proper map, and then we're going to track certain things. At least we have some time on our hands for that for the next class. Covered a lot in this class. So next class we'll use a different map, not video like this now, a flat map, the DWG files and all that. So see how to work with them.
Right. Sounds good. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So
I'll find out if it's possible to have like some downloadable uh, presets of some of these things that you have done. I don't know if you get my drift. So some of the animations that you've worked on, is it possible to download them as presets and just bring them into a new document and then just edit the text to retain the features or the animations that are already on them?
In a way, yes, but not as presets, right? The way we do these things, the explanation is a bit long. So, but let me just give you the idea. So the whole idea is this, yeah. You have a project where you did these things, right? You have a project maybe where you animated the text and you like how the text was animated. You like how the stroke was animated. I mean, it's easier to animate a new stroke. It's simpler because it's a very simple animation than to start to import. Except you have like a very complex thing you did, and to recreate it will take more time. Then what you do is you have to import that project into your current project. So it's very simple. You just maybe double click, right? When you double click, you look for that particular After Effects project. So let me use an example. Where do I go? Where do I go for this? So I have a setting. Let me look for something here. So sorry, there's this other animation resource. Let me look for this thing. Where do I have that thing kept? Okay, so I have that used regularly. Also template software. So basically, yeah, because just to save time, you can just look for that particular project, because when you save that project, you save it as an After Effects file. So when you save it as that, and you're working on a new project, you can import that After Effects file into that your project, but it will come in heavy, right? Because of the size. Now, another thing you could do, you could open that old project where you have that thing you did there. You could open it and then delete every other heavy file that you don't find important, then save it as a different file name. Don't save it on your old file, or if not, you will lose everything you've worked on. So save it as a different name. Delete whatever you don't find interesting or you don't find important to use in your new project. So when you finish, you save it in a different name, then you go back to the new project, import that old project that you saved in another name, import it into After Effects. And it will come into After Effects as a folder. Then you can open that folder and look for where you created that thing and drag it, drop into your composition and use it like that. So that's basically how to import stuff that you created like this. I'm still trying to look for a particular project that I could just import. There's somewhere I kept these things. I don't know. How am I finding it difficult to look at this thing? I know where this thing is now. So that's basically how it works. Now, another thing is this. The more you keep using After Effects, you start to get used to how it works. Then you get to a stage where you can then download certain resources online. Like there are some resources that already have this text animation, right? You could just plug in, import these preset animations and just use them like that. So I was looking for some places where I kept those resources to show you how you can do that. But it's quite very simple. I mean, don't bother yourself with that for now. It's like trying to use a calculator when you're in nursery class. It won't help your learning curve. So it won't help the neural path you're building for, on how to use this software. It won't help that at all. So just try to work manually for now without using any of those presets. It's very helpful in building that muscle memory you need. Okay, any other question?
Okay. So in the absence of any other questions, I think we can call it a day at this time. Next class will be on Thursday, 7 p.m. at the same time. Today, many of us
Thank you
were
very
able
much.
to come in early. Please let's improve on that next Thursday so that we can get the most out of the class before it gets too late in the night. But thank you very much. It's been great having us, and let's keep animating.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. So we'll see you again on Thursday. I'll be
All right. Good night.
closing the class now. Good night.